Dear friends, the mentors of the Virginia Center asked us to begin this session by quoting a passage in this magazine that is entitled The Legend of the Cave. The spirit Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, through the hands of the medium Divaldo Franco, wrote this legend in one of his books that are coming up. They are already translated, revised, they're at the publisher's desk. And they're coming up very soon in English, Torments of Obsession. And there they talk about the legend of the cave. The legend of the cave is everything to do with the theme that Geraldinho is going to tell us today, because he's going to tell us about the afterlife. Life in the afterlife according to Chico Xavier, according to the works of Chico Xavier himself. And in the meantime, it says, there was a lady who was walking by. She was not out there in the universe, she was on earth. And there was a cave. A voice within the cave was calling her up, saying, come on in. She had a baby in her arms and kept calling her, come in, come in. To the point that she got closer, and the voice said, when you come in, whatever you find, you can take it. It's yours. Whatever you like. She kept entering the cave. As she entered the cave, she started seeing gold, jewelry, treasures of all different types you could possibly imagine. Nobody else was there. Can you imagine? It's like heaven for people who like that stuff. She was amazed. She kept holding the baby and taking a look at everything. And the voice kept saying, you can take anything you want. You have the time of your life. But the minute you leave the cave, a door is going to come down and you can't come back. So she started exploring it, getting necklaces, golden vases, and everything she could. But you imagine, a baby here, only one hand. She didn't have a bag, maybe a baby bag, I don't know, with that person. A bottle. But she kept like holding on. She was dressed up in a skirt or something. So she said, maybe I can fill in and wrap it up in my clothes. So she said, I'm just gonna put the baby down for a minute and fill it all up. So she kept like looking at everything and grabbing and grabbing and grabbing and grabbing. There was an infinite of things. She was closer to the exit door. She had everything packed. She said, I think I got enough. She left. The door came down. Where's the baby? Inside. Manuel Filomeno de Miranda brings that story to remind us about incarnation, reincarnation. The door is going to come down. Death. The most precious thing. Where is that going to be? In or out with us? That's a question for us to meditate. And that's how the spirits want us to open up, to be really permeable to this session of true therapy and awareness that Geraldinho and the good spirits are going to offer to us. Geraldinho, everybody knows you, so. And we are delighted that you're here again, and we're thankful in advance.
Well, thank you guys for having me again, and I ask you, please forgive my English again. This is a very interesting subject that we are going to study together, but first of all, I would like to ask, because we hear so many times people saying about the afterlife that nobody came to tell us about what happened after this life. And are they right? What do you think? No, they're not. They're not. We have so many teachings, so many messages since the old ages that prepare us for the afterlife, that we shall look upon them and meditate upon those messages, especially after the Spiritism came to earth on the 19th century, after Allan Kardec's work, and especially after Chico Xavier's work. So many information about the life after death, the life beyond this earthly environment, that we have to study this information. We have to go and study them in a way that will make a difference for us when the time comes and we have this passage or this pathway to the other life, right? And it's interesting because in English you say, when someone goes, you say passed away. It's in the conscious, right? Somebody passed away. So we should meditate about that and study together what is waiting for us after life, after this life on earth. It's interesting because when Chico Xavier was 92 years old, almost 3 months, between 1 and 3 months before he died, he was going to the Grupo Espírita da Prece in Uberaba, and he was waving to the crowd, and he was telling them, "I'm in the final days of my body." He was not telling anyone that he was in his final day of his life. He was telling everyone that he was in the final days of his body, and that he would continue with us in spirit, right? Let's go back to the Genesis book by Moses, chapter 1, versicle 2. "The earth, however, was without form and empty. There was darkness on the face of abyss." That's quite interesting because the Genesis book, the first chapter, is talking about the formation of earth, right? And we can conclude here that the primitive word at that time, the word that was in formation by Jesus, we know that nowadays by the information of the spirits, especially Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, that Jesus himself is the guide of this world, and Jesus himself preside the formation of earth, right? So at that time, earth was a very harsh environment. It was a very primitive world. Too many volcanoes and everything going on. But we can say that at that time there was one level, one plane that was being built, that is the crust of earth, right? That was information. But this saying by Moses is also informing us that at that time there was also darkness and the abyss, two planes of suffering. And then John the Apostle, on his chapter 14, verses 1 to 3, tell us one of Jesus saying, "My Father's house has many rooms." And this is very important to us, right? The saying of Jesus that the universe is so immense that has many rooms, many plans of life, many diverse plans of life that we shall one day get to know. And that also, John also says that Jesus was going to prepare the plans for us. Let's say what he says in his chapter 12, verse 32. "And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." And this is very consoling for us, because in one way or another, we are going to evolve and to go to Jesus' pathway and be embraced by his kingdom. And his kingdom is a kingdom of love, of comprehensive, of fraternity, solidarity, forgiveness, right? That's our pathway, the pathway of truth, the pathway that will let us go towards God. And so that we can understand that Jesus is preparing from that time, that primitive time, when earth had only darkness and the abyss, he is preparing other plans of life, other plans that he is evangelizing those plans. He is teaching or constructing new plans of life beyond, naturally, the earth's crust. Before Allan Kardec's work, there was a guy in Sweden, Emanuel Swedenborg. He was a medium that has many faculties, many mediumship faculties. He was usually out of his body. He talked to the spirits. He saw the spiritual world many times. And when he came back to his body, he described it on various books. One of his books is called The True Christian Religion. And this is almost 100 years before Allan Kardec's work. So he's kind of preparing the way for the Consoler, for the Spiritism to come in the next century, the 19th century. And in the 18th century, he wrote, "The universe is composed of different spheres in various degrees of luminosity and happiness. These spheres will serve as home in the afterlife on earth, according to the spiritual conditions that we have acquired." This is very clear, isn't it? The existence of various spiritual paths, spiritual spheres around the earth that will hold us according to our spiritual development. And this was already known here on earth 100 years before Allan Kardec's work. Let's see what else Emanuel Swedenborg wrote. "The things that I have seen for so many years, I can make the following statements. In the spiritual world, there are lands as in our natural world. There are plains and valleys, mountains and hills, as well as springs and rivers. There are cities, and in those cities there are palaces and houses. There are writings and books. There are functions and trade. There is gold, silver, and precious stone. In a word, both in general and in particular, there are all the things in the natural world, but these things are immensely more perfect in heaven. This is very interesting, isn't it? It's almost, we can see the work of André Luiz by Chico Xavier's hand in complete affinity with those sayings, describing the organization of life after death in different planes, in different spheres of life, that has many things we have here, but in a more perfect way, more beautiful way. Of course, it depends where you are, right? It depends of the spirituality of yourself, or of the place that you go, and of course it will varies a lot. How much it is elevated, the more beautiful should it be. Now we have the Spirits book by Allan Kardec in the mid-1800s, and he says about the Spirits book, this work is not a personal doctrine. It is the result of the direct teachings of the spirits themselves regarding the mysteries of the world where we will one day be, as well as the issues that interest humankind. So there is a step forward, right? When Allan Kardec starts his work codifying the Spiritism, it's like we can understand nowadays that humankind was mature sufficiently to receive another kind of knowledge, another paradigm of knowledge. The knowledge that the life goes on after death, that there is continuing after this life on earth, and there is constant interaction and relation between the plans, spiritual plans, and the life on earth. He also wrote at the Spirits book, experience tell us that the spirits of the same category, of the same character, and animated by the same sentiments, gather together in groups and families. Now we begin to understand how it works after this life. Because here on earth, we are all together, right? We are all mixed up. Good, bad, all kinds of cultures, all kinds of people from various backgrounds, various beliefs, the good, the bad, the evil, the sublime. We are all mixed up. Because here we get to understand and we get to be proven of our commitments. And sometimes we need to be facing different opinions, facing difficulty, facing the sorrow, the pain, just to improve ourselves, right? And to learn from one to another one. But after death, it's different. Because after death, the spirits will gather according with its feelings, with its thoughts, right? We all be together with the ones that thinks and feels just like us. So there are multiple plans of life, multiple spheres of lives after death, because we gather in families, in groups that think and feel just like us. In the review Spirit, the Spiritist review that Allan Kardec organized in August of 1858, he himself is kind of amazed or at the let's say, how the people didn't understand that the life after death and the life in other planets varies until the infinite. And he, in a certain way, complains. For certain individuals convinced about the existence of the spirits, and here I do not talk about others, it must be astounding that we spirits have our homes and cities. They did not refrain from criticizing me. Allan Kardec himself opened his heart here of how the people that believe in afterlife don't understand that we need cities, that we need home, sorry, that we need homes, that we need places to be after death. And still nowadays, this is kind of hard, right? When Chico Xavier started receiving his work of André Luiz in 1942, the first one was published in 1944, Nosso Lar, Our Home. He received a lot of criticism, a lot, from the Spiritists. Oh, this is crazy. How can we have a city over the clouds? This is nonsense. You see, even the spirits people in Brazil would tell Chico that, would tell him that he was crazy. He was going crazy. Oh man, you are crazy. You are fascinated by wrong spirits. This is not possible. How can I hold the city over the clouds? You see how the human mind is of little understanding still nowadays. In the book, In the Greater World, André Luiz wrote this: the wisest spirit would not affirm dogmatically the point in which matter ends and spirit begins. This is a revelation that we shall comprehend. And I think the modern science, the astrophysics, the quantum physics are touching this, right? And André Luiz is saying that in the higher planes of life here on earth, the wisest spirits, they don't know when spirit begins and matter ends. They don't know. Listen, it's a frontier of knowledge. Even for the wisest spirit, they would not affirm dogmatically the point in which matter ends and spirit begins. Because everything is God's creation. Everything is connected. And we have to start to think not in divided path. No, it's everything connected. Matter, the spirit, the mind, the soul, the feelings, right? There is this book, the second book of Chico Xavier, that was published in 1935. It's a book written by his mother, Maria de São João de Deus, Cartas de uma Morta. The name in English would be Letters from a Dead Woman. And she said, she wrote through Chico Xavier. Let's be this. Yeah. Life does not only possess in the distant world where you forsaking your ultimate fantasy. This is the Chico Xavier's mother's spiritual guide telling her that, right? Everywhere life swarms triumphant, and the vehicle of its manifestations is that it diversifies in the multiplicity of their plans. The worlds are the continuity of other worlds, and the heavens succeed uninterruptedly through the boundless spaces. We are now understanding there are multiple plans, multiple worlds after this life, and they succeed one another in an infinite way. It's just for us to see the universe, right? If one likes to know and study the things that astrophysics nowadays study, it's amazing, isn't it? We are discovering how big this universe, this known universe is, how infinite it is. And even nowadays astrophysics, they are amazed themselves about these realities. And also the possibility of other universes, multiple universes, right? And we now know that in this universe, the known universe, all the matter that we see, that we can see by our instruments, by our telescopes, the Hubble one, right? We can now say that all the matter that we can see is just 4.5% of the whole matter of what exists, just 4.5%. Everything that we see, planets, moons, stars, galaxies, clusters of galaxies, all that we can see is just 4.5% of what exists in this known universe. And there is a possibility that we have multiple universes in various ways. And now Chico Xavier mother is telling us, our life here is an extension of human life. There is no emptiness in the universe. All interplanetary zones are full of life in multiform manifestations. This is so neat because Chico Xavier wrote this probably in 1932. It was published in 1935, but we know that he received these psychographics of his mother long before that. So we probably go between 1931, 1932, 1933. And here his mother is saying one thing that the modern astrophysics are saying, the 21st century astrophysics are saying. There is no emptiness in the universe. All interplanetary zones are full of life in multiform manifestations. We know that one thing that is called the vacuum quantum, that there is no vacuum. It's just we are getting to know that there is matter everywhere, matter that we don't understand yet. Now Neo Lúcio, in the book Sementeira de Luz, Seeds of Light, right, that we published in Pedro Leopoldo, is saying about the afterlife. The beyond is not a privileged region of those who say beautiful prayers, but the zone in which life moves on with its care and blessings, concerns and joys, struggles and truces, laughter and hope, where the soul, insatiable worker of God, continues working and loving, enriching itself and assisting the neighbor. So life is a continuing thing. We left the body here, we leave the body here on earth, and we continue with ourselves after life, the way we are here. And that's why we should care about the way we are here nowadays, today, not tomorrow, today, now, this time. We should care about ourselves now, about our feelings, about our thoughts, because that's what's going to be important after our life here. Because what we feel here now, what we think here now, what we know here now, it's what we will get after this body. Emmanuel, through Chico Xavier, wrote this in a kind of warning way to us Spiritists, that we are not privileged, right? And he wrote that in the book Deus Conosco, that we also published, wrote through the hands of Chico Xavier on April the 11th of 1945. He says, "Neither heavens nor immediate happy words, but we ourselves, with our virtues and defects, swimming in the waters of the universal struggle to make ourselves worthy of the Father who gave us life." So after we are dead here on earth, after we leave our body here on earth, what we're going to encounter is just ourselves. It's like death is like to be yourself in front of a mirror, the reality mirror. Because here we have a body that in some kinds, in one way or another, is like a mask, right? A mask. You don't know for sure what the person beside you think. You don't know for sure what your relative feels, because the body kind of masks everything, right? But in the spiritual world, there is no masks. We get to know the reality of our feelings and our thoughts. Now Emmanuel is talking about Nosso Lar, our home, that Chico Xavier was writing, was psychographing. This message he wrote in July the 7th of 1943, and it's published now in the book Deus Conosco. It's very interesting because Emmanuel is really revealing here one very interesting point. He says the author aims to provide all the details of his stay in a colony of transition amongst thousands of colonies of its nature, of this nature. See, André Luiz just revealed for us the organization of life in one colony called Nosso Lar, our home. And we know through Chico Xavier sayings that Nosso Lar is the equivalent city, spiritual city, over the city of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And it's like Chico told us that it's like 50 kilometers up over the city of Rio de Janeiro. 50 kilometers, one plane that goes to Brazil would fly like 11 kilometers. So 5 times higher than the highest planes that go overseas. But this is just one colony. Emmanuel is saying here that there are thousands of colonies of this nature. Thousands. And they are different from each other. They are not equal. Nosso lar is unique, right? Because it's like here, the cities differs, right? The cities in America is very different from the cities in Brazil, that they are very different from the cities in Europe, that for their time they're different from the cities in India, and also from the cities in China and Japan, right? Because of what? Because of the culture, because of the beliefs, because of the organization of the people. We are also different from the cities, the Muslim cities in Africa or the Middle East, right? So Emmanuel is saying that there are thousands of colonies of this nature, spiritual colonies, and they differ from each other regarding the details of the organization surrounding the earth. So it could not be different from our times, from our earthly way of life. And now Maria João de Deus, Chico Xavier mother, on the book Cartas de uma Morta, letter from a dead woman, she says, the earth is the center, that is the headquarters of many spiritual spheres that surround it concentrically. I cannot say how many of these spheres are, because they go beyond my understanding that for now I cannot achieve. So as long as she could see, those spheres of life goes infinitely. And this is very interesting, right? Now she says about the life nearby Earth, what we call what? The umbral.
Lower zones.
Huh?
Lower zones.
The lower zones. In Brazil, in Portuguese, the umbral, right? The lower zones. The lower zones should not be very different from ourselves, right? Because it's just the immediate zone. Chico Xavier would joke to us that the lower zone, do you know where it begins? Who knows? Chico Xavier would joke to us that it begins here, in the point of our nose. That's the beginning of the lower zones. Because it's so close to us, right? We see this world, violence, crimes, misunderstandings, disputes, wars, revolutions, right? Abuse. That's the lower zone. And the ones that devoted their lives to this kind of situation, this kind of life, they are the ones that sustain the lower zones, and also the darkness and the abyss. So Chico Xavier's mother wrote, at adjacent planes in the world, however, the spiritual life takes place in an environment similar to the earthly life. So probably a lot of abuse, a lot of crimes, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of ignorance, right? Just like Earth. That's the lower zone. Do we want to go there? I didn't hear you. No one can. No one wants to go there, right? So we should be prepared not to do so. And she continues enlightening us. It is therefore natural that our environment is still largely characterized by the ideas and concepts of the earth. So there are prejudices, there are differences from race, from gender, and so on, religion, disputes about beliefs on the lower zones, just like here on Earth. Nothing different. And now she talks about the place that she was living. Of course, a higher place, a place of better understanding. And she says, we have houses here, birds, animals, meetings, institutes like the earthly families, which are grouped by the spirits of the holiest affinities. And this is comforting, right? We are here in a meeting, right? Of course, there are meetings, afterlives also, devoted to peace, devoted to pray, devoted to understand the immortal soul and everything. So it's good that we nowadays are taking the time for ourselves to comprehend this here on earth, because we are preparing ourselves for the afterlife. This is not a time to pass by here. This is not an amusement meeting. This meeting here every week has a purpose. And that's the purpose, to prepare ourselves to the life beyond. And now she says, at those times, immediate to the post-mortem, filled with physical impressions that persist in some entities for years. She's talking about the suffering, because many of the people that leave the body will persist with the physical feelings of pain, of diseases, if the one is not has not prepared himself for this pathway, right? And she was telling Chico Xavier, her son, that what she was seeing after life. Life is almost a copy of the existence of the earthly personality. That was how I met. This is very interesting. That was how I met numerous companions who questioned the teachings of the masters when referred to the distant past, and some of them asserted they could not admit the multitude of existence of the soul. You see, she is telling us that she saw afterlife people that didn't understand and didn't accept that we had past lives already and that we should reincarnate. They don't accept. I was talking to John before this meeting, and he was telling me how some of his relatives that doesn't understand that, and probably will not understand that after they leave the body, because of the conception. You have to understand, we have to understand that everything is on our mind. And no matter what you believe, it's what you get. So the work of our life here on earth is to open our mind. It's to prepare our mind to understand the living, the life beyond our sensors, beyond we can see and touch. That's why it's very important to study and to study everything. Not only study the gospel or the spiritism. We have to study everything. Astronomy, astrophysics, quantum physics, the new findings of medicine, of science, of our nature, because this is going to open our minds to a greater understanding of life. You see? Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in our views, in our prejudice, in our little world. Chico Xavier's mother wrote to Chico, the Saxons, the Latins, the Arabs, the Asians, the Africans, form here distinct large communities. They also are located in different places from each other. In the nuclei of their activities, they retain the customs that characterize them. It is deeply interesting to closely observe how these immense spiritual colonies differ from each other. Should be very interesting for us, isn't it? Like it was for her to see all those colonies like Nosso Lar in India, in Africa, in Europe, in America, in China, in Japan, all very different from each other. Because of what? Because of the mind of the people that live there, and their concepts, and their beliefs, and their understanding of life. There's one thing very interesting about Chico Xavier's work, because there is one only book that Chico Xavier received by psychographic that does not speak about Jesus. Never. Why? Do you know? Because the author was a Jewish spirit. Yeah, that's true. The book is called Quando se pretende falar da vida, and was written by a boy, a Jewish boy, that passed away in São Paulo, Roberto Muscat, and it reunites all the messages that he wrote through Chico Xavier to his parents, Davi and Sonia Muscat. That I was there in the first message, and it was very, very emotional, because this couple was suffering so much, the loss of their boys of 18 years old, and they could not get consolation from their beliefs, so that they went to Chico Xavier's in Uberaba and received many letters from his son. And it's very interesting because Chico Xavier received Jewish Hebrew words. Chico Xavier didn't speak Hebrew. And the boy was explaining that the way that he passed away, he heard his grandfather saying Jewish words, that meaning that he was passing away to the afterlife, and then he was flown to a spiritual colony over Jerusalem. Yeah. And after that, I speaking to Chico Xavier, how was the life in this colony, the Jewish colony, right, over the city of Jerusalem? And Chico told me, "Oh, Geraldinho, do you know, they don't speak about Jesus, of course. They don't speak about reincarnation, but they study a lot about God. There are universities that they study all things about God, the attributes of God and everything. And so they begin to realize that God must be very just, that God must be very powerful, very loving. And so they understand they are not perfect and they need another chance until they themselves realize that they need to come back in another way, in another body. But this is left for the individual. It's not taught. It's not an open say, because everyone has to receive itself, or has to come to itself, to this point of understanding by itself. And this is neat, because it shows us how God respects our condition. There is no violation of our conscience, right? We just published a book in Brazil, Chico Xavier's book, in February, Depois da Travessia, after the path, after the crossing, yeah. And it's very interesting because we reunited all the messages that Chico Xavier received himself by his own sister. And she was all of her life, she was a Catholic follower, although Chico Xavier's sisters. But she was Catholic, very, strong believer of the Catholic Church. And she described it through Chico Xavier how she got to a Catholic colony after life. She was received by her mother, her brother, and was brought to this Catholic colony. She described that the flight that took her there would take 45 minutes from Pedro Leopoldo to there. And she was very happy to see her friends from Pedro Leopoldo and Matozinho city near Pedro Leopoldo, that in Brazil we call the Beatas, how the Catholic companions of churchgoers, yeah, followers, yeah. And she was very happy to see them there, and she was very happy to see that they have priests, Catholic priests. And her mother told her, Luisa, you now will have a time of resting. You can rest with your friends, your Catholic friends, our beloved priests here. You can meditate. You have a time for yourself now. And she asked her mother back, okay, what about the Spiritists? Oh, my dear, they don't have this kind of rest. After the time of their death, they're just assigned something to do. They just go and work. Isn't that comforting? Yeah. Now there's another book from Chico Xavier, Jovens no Além, Youth Beyond, right? It was written by Augusto César Neto. It was a boy that was drowned in Santos, in the beach in Santos. And after his mother, went 69 times to Uberaba. And this is very important. The persistence of his mother, Dona Yolanda César, she went 69 times to Chico Xavier and never had a message. And then she got the first message. and he never stopped writing. You know, the last message that Chico Xavier received by psychographic, one day before his death, was from this guy, Augusto César Neto. And he is kind of funny to write about things. And he wrote, "The thing is that there are no dead guys. The folks and the groups, the clique and the classes are here. Nobody rises by giving twists rocket. We are as we were, looking for ways to renew ourselves." That's neat, isn't it? Now let's see some parts of André Luiz's writings. Here is from Nosso Lar, our home. Let's talk about ecology and architecture. André Luiz wrote, "What impressed me the most was especially the aspects of nature. Almost everything was an improved copy of the earth." So we get the sense that we will have a world after death beyond a certain spiritual condition that is pretty more mature, more beautiful, more perfect in association and organization and everything. He also wrote about large trees, rich orchards, and delightful gardens. And he is speaking about nature. You know, in the first chapters of the book, he told us how Nosso Lar was built. Do you remember that part? He first says or wrote that the Nosso Lar was founded by Portuguese descendant and Portuguese immigrants that was dead in Brazil. And when they got to the spiritual world, they sought and found a new way of living, and so they found Nosso Lar. But the first works of Nosso Lar was very hard for them. André Luiz wrote this to us, that they encounter a forest. A forest is nature. It's not discarnated trees, right? Don't get mixed up. It's the nature of this plane. It's the nature, trees of this plane, forests, right? And also André Luiz told us that the first founders of Nosso Lar went to see the natives, the Indians, with their primitive houses. That's very understandable, right? Just the same concept of the mind. The Indians that lived in Brazil at that time, at the 1600s, they discarnate and continues to be natives Indians. So no surprise. But they have a very strong work to do. It's not like someone goes thinking, "Oh, I'm going to plan Nosso Lar," and oops, like Ginny, right? The bewitched. Yeah. No, they had to struggle to construct it, and so that we had this beautiful architecture and the gardens, right? André Luiz is saying here, graceful buildings lined up at regular intervals, displaying various forms. Of course, they constructed those buildings, like we construct our cities here. No surprise about that. Now Chico Xavier's mother is talking about the higher levels flowers in plains high above us. And she says, few flowers are more or less similar to those of your gardens. And most of them seem extravagant at first contemplation. They are characterized, however, by its elusive and unusual delicacy. Chico told us that he would travel around the spiritual world in cities, different cities, and he would see beautiful trees and beautiful flowers that absorbs the light of the sun during the day, and when the night comes, they light themselves. Should be very neat, very beautiful. Yeah.
You talk about them constructing. It's not a mind construction. It's actually a physical construction.
Yes, why not?
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. You see, you do mind things here on earth?
Yes.
Do you construct anything by mind here? Yes, you do construct by mind, but you need matter. You need the effort. You need the intelligence. You need to do it a teamwork, right? So we gather together to construct out something, but with intelligence, with planning, not just by one will.
That's why you need to be associated
Together.
with people
Yeah.
that are of like mind.
Yes, that's right.
So
That's
but-
why we get together with people that feel and think just like we feel and think.
Does the fact that you're open to many more cultures give you a wider environment to demand if you accept and can, let's say, assimilate other cultures?
I think so, yes. You see, do you think Nosso Lar is a Spiritist city?
I would think so.
No, it isn't. There is a temple there, right? But there are now also niches in this temple, right? But they are empty. Why they are empty? Because they're empty to receive the minds of the beliefs of the people that need an image to pray, that need a cross to pray. So in that time, yes, it's kind of particular thing. But I'm not saying that the life after death will not be one day, one time, far beyond just, a mind environment. Because it is true that this is going to happen, but after we evolve to this point. The thing is, the fact of the matter is, we did not evolve to this point yet. We are not there yet. We're gonna be there, but we have to prove ourselves before.
We have much more work.
Much more work to do. Yeah. It's a step after another step. Of course, how? Yeah.
It's like on a Catholic view, it's like a purgatory.
No, I would say the purgatory is the lower zones. Yeah. You see, the heavens are the spiritual zones, more spiritualized zones, that evolve by the infinite. And of course, in one time in our evolution, we will not need any more matter. We will not need any more the body, even the spiritual body, the perispirit. We will not need them. We will be just light beings. But it's a far away from now, right? Of course, we can understand Jesus is one angel or light being far away from our understanding. And probably he does not have a body like we know, like we understand. Yes.
How, if all of this is in our thoughts and the way we feel and think, then what is this fifth dimensional pull that we're supposed to be gravitating to and where we're supposed to be going into a new dimension?
That's why death exists, by transformation. If we stayed here on Earth indefinitely, we would not change. We need transformation, because transformation comes to us as a challenge, and you get to experience different things, different lives. You incarnate as a woman, then you incarnate as a man. You incarnate as an American, and you incarnate as an African. And you shall incarnate as a spirits today. And who knows, tomorrow you're going to be in Jerusalem. By this kind of experiences, you are changing yourself by experiencing different things, different cultures, different knowledge. You get the chance to be a doctor, and you also get the chance to be a housewife. You get the chance to be an astrophysics, and also you get the chance to be a nurse. And you're going to experience very, very different ways of lives. And you're going to expand your mind and comprehend, like John said, comprehend different cultures, not as enemy cultures, not as barriers or walls. Oh, they are wrong, I'm right. Oh, I'm saved because I accepted Jesus Christ in my heart. And they are going to the hell because they didn't accept Jesus Christ. No, this is just nonsense, ignorance. This is all walls of ignorance. We all are sons of God, sons and daughters of God. We are all the same. God loves us the same. God loves the Muslims, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Christians, the Protestants, the Catholics, the Spiritists. Loves the ones that didn't have any faith. Right? About the water, André Luiz tells us that nosso lar has a river. Isn't that something? Water in the spiritual world. How could that be? But there is a water. It's called the Blue River. And the Blue River is, how do you say, fluidificado? Yeah, the Blue River is spiritually magnetized by the ministry of divine union. Look at the importance they look upon the water. And this is very amazing because Chico Xavier wrote this in 1943. At that time, nobody cared about ecology, water, right? He was kind of foreseeing the future. And this is so very important there in Nosso Lar, in our world, that we know from André Luiz' teachings that the ministry of divine union is the highest ministry in Nosso Lar. There are 12, right? But the highest one is the ministry of divine union. The only one that André Luiz would not be able or be accepted to go into, because he was not prepared to go into. And the ministry and all the ministries of the divine union was the ones responsible to spiritually magnetize the river. And then he tells us that the waters that serve all activities in the colony of Nosso Lar, they come from here. There was a huge dam, right? He described a dam that holds a reserve at the Blue River, that holds the water. They are magnetized by the divine union ministries, and then the great reservoir of the colony. Then they meet again below the regeneration services. The water goes to all houses, all hospitals, all institutions of Nosso Lar, and they meet again after the regeneration services, which is the lowest ministry, the hospitals that took care about the ones that are not yet well prepared, the ones that are disturbed, right? That just got from Earth, just passed away, and are still in a different mood of understanding. And it's interesting because he's talking about one thing that is organized, right? How does the water go from the dam, from the reservoir, to the houses, to the hospitals, to the institutions, and then got back together after the regeneration services? Tell me that. By mind? Or do they have, how do you say cano? Pipes. Pipes, of course. Utility, yeah. System, yeah. It's an intelligent city, right? Just like ours here on Earth.
Same as here.
Yeah, same as here. Not a surprise. Let's talk about food. It's a common sense that Nosso Lar just have a little soup, so it's kind of hard, isn't it? Especially the ones that like to eat too much. Let's see what André Luiz is saying. The only greater supply of food substances that resemble the earth's, and he wrote, proteins and carbohydrates, are in the ministries of regeneration and assistance. Two ministries, right? Regenerations and assistance, because they are the lower ones, the ones that are better, that are most connected to Earth, to the ones that came from Earth, that are related to Earth. So they need this kind of food there. He also explains where there is always a large number of needy spirits. So it's not easy to pass away, to leave your body here on Earth and change your kind of food or kind of alimentation. André Luiz, just in the beginning of the book, tells us that he was suffering, hungry and thirsty, right? Do you remember that part? Because of what? Because he did not prepare new organisms for the other life. Organs. He did not prepare new organs for the afterlife. And here on earth, we like to smoke, we like to drink a lot. Do you think we are preparing for the afterlife? We should be very afraid, as Chico Xavier would say. Be afraid. Sorry, I'm not meaning to afraid you.
No, no.
Yeah.
It's, what you describe is an analogy that I give my wife all the time, which is she does these fantastic jobs of preparing herself to go on travel.
Mm-hmm.
She went back over to Italy, which is our home country, and she spent months preparing to go back.
To go there.
To go to this
Yeah.
place, that place, and this place. And when I tell her you have to prepare for the afterlife, she looks at me like I'm crazy.
Oh, she is crazy. So I'm sorry. No, you are right. We have to prepare ourselves. And not only for afterlife. One time Chico told me, Geraldinho, we can now prepare for our next life.
Wow.
We can mentalize, oh, the next life I want to do this kind of work. You should prepare nowadays. So there is no reason for one that is 70 years old to sit in his couch and watch TV. Oh, I don't have anything to do anymore. No. You have plenty of things to do. You have to prepare yourself, not only for the afterlife, but for the next life. Go study something new. Go and give some kind of social work to the others, to the needy. Well, what? Do something useful. That's what Spiritism is calling of us, right? Do something useful of your life. Something that will make a difference. Otherwise, your life will go just a plain, boring one. Yeah. And a painful one also. Nothing changed. Just the same tone. Right? This is boring. Life is joy. Life is to learn every time. That's why Jesus told us that the ones that will see the heavens is the ones that be like the children, right? Because the children are always learning. They are always happy to learn new things and see new things. They don't have prejudice, right? Because they are learning. We shall learn every time. We should not stop learning. But let's get back to the meals. André Luis says also that our meals here are much nicer than on earth. There are residences in Nosso Lar that dispense it almost completely. Wow, what kind of families do that? Yeah, that almost dispense the kind of food we used to have. Now it's a part of Maria João de Deus, Chico Xavier mother, and she wrote, "Food and treatment all closely resembled what can be seen on the face of the orb, even some light things, even some little things that constitute grounds for pleasure for some, such as the use of tobacco or favored beverages." Where is that? Is this in nosso lar? No. Lower zones, yes. Things that she saw. There still exists nutrition, however, the spirit usually absorbs the elements that regenerate our vitality in the very oxygen we breathe, in unimaginable conditions of purity and the most delicate chemical composition of the atmosphere. Where is this? Is this the lower zones? No, of course not. The higher zones, the higher planes, they absorb elements of the oxygen and other chemical compositions of the atmosphere. What?
There are swamis or yogis over in India
Yeah.
that live on air.
Yeah, that's true. Here on Earth,
Right. So they've advanced already.
they are, yes. And of course, when they leave the body, where do you think they're going to be?
Pretty high up.
Yeah. They prepared themselves to that. And that is one thing that we should see. What is this? What action? Discipline, right?
Discipline and detachment.
Detachment, discipline, dematerialization, right? That's the thing. So after the death, there is no mystery. There is no varinha de condão, como fala, varinha mágica, a magic. No, no, there's no magic wand. We just will get to have ourselves the way we are, really, not the way we supposed to be or want to be. Of course, everyone here wants to be a Jesus follower, a Chico Xavier follower, right? In their examples, but we are not. We are just human beings. But we can prepare. We can give an effort to our own forces and to regenerate our lives. So we'll be prepared later on. Chico Xavier's mother also told us, there are spirits here who only take care of the making of the costumes of their companions. So there are industry, right? They make costumes, they make dresses, they make trousers, they make shirts. There is music and instruments, more perfect and more adaptable to the harmony than that known on earth. Can we imagine that? Instruments that are more perfect to capture the harmony of the universe. We have select parties and assemblies, media, remote vision. Look, she wrote that in 1931, 1932. At that time, we didn't have television. We didn't have media. We had radio, but not the media that we have here. And she was telling that the plane where she was, that they had remote vision, media, through processes that humanity is still very far from understanding. And now we have internet, we have multimedia, and probably she saw that in 1930. She passed away in 1915. Probably she saw that in 1915. One time Chico told me, I asked him, how is Nosso Lar, our home, science compared to us? on Earth? And Chico told me, oh, they are about 100 years in our advance. So the science in No Solar are 100 years in advance of our science. That's why André Luiz tells us in 1943 that they had one device called personal communicator. What is that, ladies and gentlemen? Huh? The cell phones. But we have it now, right? They had it there in 1943. Isn't that neat?
When you raise your consciousness and you go into,
Pardon me?
when you raise your consciousness, like let's say you're in meditation and you're raising your consciousness and you're going to other places to heal your body and you're going to other places to repair things, aren't we already going into some of that?
Yes, yes. We are preparing to.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
to do that, to repair what's wrong with us, we have to do that.
Yes. Yeah. We always shall prepare our mind and thoughts to concentrate, to pray, to meditate.
So aren't we already doing that as humans?
Yes, we are, but this is not sufficient, right? We have to a long way on going. Charity. Charity, yes. Because one should not care just about himself. Yeah? We should care about ourselves, but also we should care about others. That's the way we gonna evolve together. Otherwise, we just gonna construct clusters of, bubbles. And the society around are just going crazy. Let's talk about unemployment. Is there unemployment in No Solar? No, there is not. There is not unemployment. Dona Laura says to André Luiz that the week of 48 hours of work, 8 hours a day, and everyone works in our home. And everyone works in every home of No Solar. But of course, there are the lazy ones, right? Yes, there are the lazy ones. Clarencio showed us, André Luiz showed us that lady that was there 7 years in No Solar. She passed away in Brazil and was, after a period of turbulence in the lower zones, she was brought to No Solar. And she was there 7 years. And she just, in 7 years, she just worked 15 hours. She never accepted a work. She was always complaining, oh, my chief was so harsh. Yeah, I didn't like this kind of work. It's too demanding. I want something lighter. So Clarencio would give her another chance and another chance, and she would never accept. She was always complaining. And then she asked Clarencio, who was a minister, right, to grant her the chance to come back to Earth and help her children. What he said, no, you cannot. You don't deserve it. You are here for 7 years. You just work for 15 hours for the good of the society. Why should I trust you that you're going to be of good help of your children? You are not prepared to help your children if you not help others. You see, there is a merit law in the planes like No Solar and beyond. Of course, from No Solar and down under is different. It's just like here. But from No Solar and beyond, there is a merit law.
Is No Solar like first or second step out of the
It's the third. Yeah. It's the lower zones also, but it's the higher lower zones. André Luiz tells us that the lower zones are divided in three different zones. The one that is very close to the crust here on Earth, that begins in our nose, like Chico said, right? And the middle zone and the higher zone of the lower zones. The higher zone is not solar. It's on the border of another plane, the plane that leaves André Luiz's mother. Do you remember? She was from above. She only could stay in our solar for 48 hours. She could sustain a body that, how do you say? Perispirit?
The Perispirit.
Perispirit, dance for Nosso Solar just for 48 hours. And then she came back to upstairs. Yeah? What about André Luiz's father? Who remember? Lower zone, but not the lower zone. He was in the shadows, below the lower zones. Because of what? Because he had many, many women, and many of them didn't forgive him, right? The issue on property. Is there property on our solar? What do you think?
Yes.
Yes?
I think so.
Hmm? To merit? Yes. Kind of. Let's see what André Luiz is saying. Our acquisitions are made based on hours of work. The hour bonus is, in essence, our money. So you have to work for the society to have back an hour bonus. And there's one thing very interesting. The ones that care for the children are paid in double. Is that so here on Earth? Is that right? Huh? Nothing, right? Yeah. So Nosso Solar is an advanced theory compared to Earth, right? Nosso Solar is our future. That's the way, the purpose that the good spirits brought Nosso Solar teachings to us, is to show us the regenerate world, how it works, how it will function. Remember who was there in Baltimore yesterday when Jesus were talking about the regeneration of the institutions, that we would have to get away with the old institutions and construct another society with new institutions. Nosso Solar is showing us our future. And it's very interesting, the work of Chico Xavier, because the book Liberation, is showing our past. Libertação is showing our past. There is the dark city, right, in the shadows, that lives nowadays like in the medieval times. So Chico Xavier's works is very important for our meditation. We can see our past, we can see our present, and we can foresee our future. Nosso Solar is our future as a society. Let's see what else. Every spiritual family here in Nosso Solar, however, can acquire a home, no more than one. He is talking not about individual, but the spiritual family, right? they are allowed to buy a home, but just one home, not multiple homes. Not country home, not beach house, right? No, one home. And how much it costs? Do you know? 30,000 hour bonuses. 30,000 hour bonuses. For one to work and receive 30,000 hour bonus, he has to work 11 and a half years to be granted the credit to buy a home in nosso lar. Or the family can work together and we acquire it in a very small amount of years, right?
Well, you know, it's not expensive. It takes 30 years for us to pay mortgage here.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about that in Brazil. Maybe 100 years.
So Geraldo,
Yeah.
my father died long time ago.
Uh-huh.
So he already prepared a house for us.
Oh yes, that's for sure. That's for sure. Chico Xavier, hopefully, yes. Chico Xavier told us some of our family members that passed away that are already working hard to have their homes there. We can, as a spiritual family, you see, as a spiritual family. In the book Gospel According to Spiritism of Allan Kardec, there's a beautiful page. One of the spirits are teaching us about the human families and the spiritual families that are very different, right? The spiritual ties that we have. Mostly, you encounter brothers and sisters that are not blood brothers and sisters, but are of spiritual families. But there's one thing that is very interesting. In general, the buildings are of common equity, which are under control of the governorship. So there is a kind of socialism there that is looked upon by the governorship. That the buildings are owned by the people, the governorship. But you can acquire if you give yourself to work. And that's for the lazy ones. The one that lady that didn't want to work, right? Every inhabitant of nosso lar receives supplies of food and clothing with regard to what is strictly necessary. And he told us that receives bread and common clothes. Everything else, the guy or the woman should work himself to deserve, right? But those who strive in getting the hour bonuses, they manage certain prerogatives in the social community. May we, however, spend our bonuses in favor of our friends, asks André Luiz. And the spirits there told him, we understand here that nothing exists without a price, and to receive something, it is essential to give something. So it's the law of merit. The ones that want something else should deserve it. Otherwise, this is not possible. In other modalities, therefore, life goes on. The only difference is that the discarnated soul is not as compelled to fatigue due to the rarefied elements of matter. Of course, in nosso lar, there's a more rarefied matter, and the body, the perispirit, is not subject to fatigue as we are here on earth. There is a difference, right? How much you go up on, how do you say? Higher, more ratified the matter, and you're not subject to fatigue. Are there abundant child there? No, because Donna Laura says that when the Ministry of Assistance entrusts me with children at home, my hours of service are double up. You see? So the Ministry of Assistance, if Nosso Lar receives as a child from earth, and the parents, the relatives of their child, of this child, is still, they are still on earth, incarnated, they would call the families to take care of that child. And there are other books from Chico Xavier that tell us about the children on the spiritual world. There are the book Voltei, I Came Back, from Irmão Jacob. That's very interesting, very interesting. He tells us about a colony of children that are taken care of. And also the book of André Luiz, Entre a Terra e o Céu, Between Heaven and Earth, also tells us how Blandina, which is Mei Mei, takes care of a colony of 2,000 children. It's very interesting. Now, a saying that by the spirit of José Murilo Neto through Chico Xavier. This was a message that he wrote to his relatives on earth. Very few move from the physical plane to higher regions, because in the greater life we invariably find the continuity. We are inside of ourselves. Desire looks like a powerful magnet. The individual turns off the dense vehicle and immediately transfers themselves to the region that define their satisfied desires. This is very important, my friends. Desire looks like a powerful magnet. So we should care about what we desire, because what we desire will be what will hold us back. Is that, yeah? Yeah. Will prison us, anchor us, right? So we should take care of our desires. And that last word is very important. We're going to be transferred to the region that define our satisfied desires. That's why we are not to go flying over to the higher grounds, because we did not evangelize ourselves. The desire to be a follower of Christ, a follower of Chico Xavier, is just a desire non-realized, non-effective, non-accomplished, right? Not accomplished. So we cannot ascend to the higher levels because we did not live the gospel in our lives. But Chico Xavier surely did, right? The desire of love, he lived here on earth, this love, this sharing, this charity, this caring about another. All his life, 92 years of love, so that most certainly he would ascend, right? The book Somos Seis, We Are Six. It's a very interesting book of 6 spirits that rode through Chico Xavier. Those 6 spirits passed away in a fire in São Paulo, in a building in São Paulo. They all died in the same day in the Andraus building in São Paulo that took on fire, and we had hundreds of deaths that day. One of them was this lady, Volquimar Carvalho dos Santos, and she wrote through Chico Xavier, "We need to have lived our earthly existence almost in absolute service of spiritualization, so that our envelopment is not marked by the subtle impressions of death." Here, we were surprised by seeing many companions who went through a sorrow plastic regenerative treatment, while many receive assistance to repair their last organic injuries. So she's telling us about plastic surgery on the dead, regenerative treatment, also assistance, medical care, right, for the perispirit, because of the transition. The transition is it's a hard transition, especially if you pass away in an accident or in a fire or in a plane crash. You know, Chico Xavier one time received one chapter of one of his books. André Luiz was writing one of his books, and he wrote one chapter dedicated to tell us how was the passing away of the ones that died in a plane crash. And you know what happened? The upper world said to Chico Xavier, Emmanuel, and André Luiz, no. This chapter must be completely vanished, completely removed, because the earth is not prepared for this reality. This is too much for them right now, maybe later. There's another spirit, Maria das Graças Greg. She died, she was pregnant, and she died in a car crash. She and 3 of her brothers, 3 of her children, yeah. The only survivor was her husband. And she wrote through Chico Xavier, I was doped by medications for forces that even today I cannot explain. I felt perfectly well that a cesarean section was happening. I called Junior, the youngest, who was taken from my core here in the spiritual life. This is very interesting because she was pregnant, she died at the car crash, and stood pregnant after life. The perispirit, yes, she was still pregnant, and the pregnancy went on, and she was assisted in a maternity in the spiritual life, where the unborn was born, and she called Junior the one that was born in a maternity in the spiritual world. This is on the book Quem São, Who Are They, from Chico Xavier. You see how rich the work of Chico Xavier is? 469 books from teachings, spiritual messages, spiritual teachings for more than 3,000 spirits. You see how much there are for us to study and meditate.
Are all these books available, published?
All these books are published, yes. 469. That is a lot. A lot of information. So let's be prepared. Why not? It's very interesting to study those things, right? Here's a thing that André Luiz wrote right on the first chapters of Nosso Lar. I realized that my lungs were breathing and my heart pulsated with absolute normality. He was feeling his lungs and his heart. Of course, not from his body, right? But from his perispirit, right? And Chico Xavier mother wrote, spirits can move around as they did on earth, slowly and heavily, but there is no need to continue to doing so. She was talking about the
Transportation?
She was talking about volutation. Yeah, she was talking about volutation. Many spirits in Nosso Lar move themselves by volutation, by the force of mind. And they want to go somewhere, so they do. But of course, there should be a preparation for that, right? About traffic and transportation, André Luiz also talks about traffic and transportation because there are vehicles in Nosso Lar, the Airbus and everything. He says that there is a service of traffic and transportation. Do you think they materialize an Airbus just by thinking? Oh, I want an Airbus. Let's build an Airbus. How do you think that? Or probably engineers that worked here on Earth in Embraer, in Boeing, in Airbus, when they discarnate, they will collaborate there to also build vehicles of transportation. That's more logical, right? Spiritism is about logic. We should ask everything and find the logic of continuity. And also, André Luiz talks about music in the streets. He tells us that the governorship recognizes that music enhances the performance of service, so that there are music playing in all streets of Nosso Lar. But do you think it's hard rock and roll? What?
Heavy metal.
Or axé? What do you think? Of course not, right? They must have, music of quality.
Classic music.
Classic music, yes, to enhance the performance of the people. This is very nice also. It's a saying of Wilson William Garcia, another spirit that wrote through Chico Xavier. And he told us, here I see that religion is a bulb that shines anywhere. Interpretations are only colors on colors in focus, printing different ways and reflections of the flame that is unique. This is very, very beautiful. We shall understand that religion, that beliefs, they are just reflections, different reflections from the very one flame that is unique. And that is the flame that will elevate our spirit. The flame of faith in God, pure faith, pure belief, that will ascend us. Not disputes over walls of separations or walls of interpretations. Those are just human childhood. The ones that are really interested in spiritualization shall understand that very closely. And to finish our work here, we brought this message from Emmanuel that is very, very also inspiring. He says, through Chico Xavier, we structure in the world complicated mechanism of caution and suspicion beyond just preservation, passionately retaining the instinct of possession. And with the instinct of possession, we create reflexes of selfishness and pride, vanity and fear. That's the reflection of us, right? Of the human society here on earth. And then he continues, in this vicious circle, the human lives generally under the domination of cherished ignorance, seeking to deceive themselves after the cradle, to disabuse themselves beyond the grave, the imprisoned binomial illusion, disillusionment. So it's a vicious cycle. And he says, let us not despise the constructive routine. Evolution, however, imposes the acquisitions of new habits. We need to acquire new habits. That's why we need to study, we need to progress, we need to commit ourselves to new challenges, especially the spiritual challenges, to charity, to care about the society around us, to care about the needy ones, to care about the ones that has less than we have. Everyone is rich enough to give something from themselves to the others. If you don't have money, you have time. If you don't have time, you can share your knowledge. You can share your disposition to do something, work on something new, to help one or another. And this is very important for us, because by doing this, we are doing to ourselves a favor of acquiring new habits of spiritualization, habits of praying, habits of caring about the others, and so that we are evolving, we are progressing ourselves, right? And to stop our teachings, our work here, this is important by Jesus. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. That is on Luke chapter 12, versicle 48, a saying of Jesus Christ. And it's an important thing to understand that. One time Chico Xavier told me that he knew that a farmer in Uberaba that was a very rich farmer, and he had cattle, and in Uberaba is a very strong cattle city in Brazil with the zebu cattle, gado zebu. The ones that has a and no, it's a cow from its origin is it's from India, and they brought to Brazil, and they
Promise.
pardon me.
Promise.
Yeah. And this farmer committed suicide because he went bad on business, and he was like 40 something years old. He was very young, but he was a very charitable person. He would help Chico in some charitable works, although he was not a spiritist. And Chico told us that he was very moved, very shocked when he knew that this farmer committed suicide. So that Chico himself took the bus and went to the graveyard, right, cemetery, to pray for him at his graveyard. And when Chico arrived there, he saw his spirit. His spirit was there, suffering, the decomposition of the body and all the sufferings that lay upon the suicide ones. And he was conscious, and he saw Chico and started talking to Chico. And Chico consoled him and give him strength to surpass this transition. And Chico told me that Chico learned a very important thing that this guy told him, because this guy told Chico, Chico, I was a rich person on earth, but I know now that the real millionaires on earth are the spiritists, because they have a treasure that most of the people don't have. The understanding that life goes on, continues after death, and that we will have back everything that we give on earth. So, Chico Xavier, you are the millionaire, and I'm the poor guy. Please help me out. Please pray for me. So, my friends, we are the millionaires. We are the ones that receive most, right? Like Jesus says here, we received the most important thing in life, the treasury of knowledge, of understanding how life works. And we should meditate that much more will be asked for us. Okay? May God bless us all.